Hi there, my name is Michael Darby. I'm Technical Director here at Element Materials Technology. I want to talk to you about the TCB Council Workshop that took place in Baltimore in the USA in April 2024. It's a really good event. It's a 3-day event at least. Sometimes they also add on a 4th day. This short video is not a replacement to attending that workshop. I would really encourage anybody to join the TCB Council and attend those workshops. They're really good events. So what happened there? Well, actually I'm a TCB representative on the TCB Council's Board of Directors. So it's a really good, useful group for me to be a part of. The FCC attend for a whole day. I said Canada speak for at least half a day, and then other people from the industry kind of give presentations. I always go and speak about things happening in Europe, for example, with the Radio Equipment Directive. So then, what happened at the TCB Council Workshop? Well, the FCC, they have their FCC rules, there are ANSI standards that labs might test to, and then there are these documents known as KDBs. Now, it stands for Knowledge Database. And the FCC update these, and it's their way of giving us instruction. They're more than just guidance, they're instructions of how we must proceed. So, for example, if you're going to test a product and go to a TCB for certification, or if you're following the SDOC route, then you would follow this KDB. And if you follow the KDB, the TCB can certify your product. I apologize for all the acronyms, but that's the industry we live in. So the FCC have updated a few of their KDBs. Some of the most exciting ones, I guess, for us are the radio module one, where they're looking at how to assess licensed cellular radio modules. Well, it covers all radio module topics, but they're kind of updating exactly how they want licensed cellular modules to be tested and authorized with their antenna. So have a look at that document. I would talk about it, but I happen to know it's a bit of a work in progress, and by the time you watch this video, it will have changed. So keep your eyes on that, and we'll do an update soon. Another topic they're doing is RF exposure. Some of you might have heard of terms like SAR, or adaptive power density, or MPE for products that are far from the body. Now, the FCC's rules changed on this topic in May 2021, and we're still waiting for the guidance, but we're waiting patiently because this guidance needs to be correct. If it's not correct, it causes a lot of trouble for everybody. So the FCC have their KDB document, 447498, and it explains all about RF exposure. But it interweaves with lots of other KDBs and lots of other raw parts. And the whole process with FCC approval is that you have to follow the procedures precisely. And if there's a gap or a breakdown in references between documents, it can leave the manufacturer and the TCB in a situation of not being able to certify a product. So they need to be able to make sure that they've got everything working together. So for example, topic of radio modules into products is affected by the RF exposure KDB, so are things like wireless power transfer, and topics that are not specifically related to RF exposure all link back to that document. Another thing they've really found over the years is that they've written guidance on things like if you've got a tablet of this size, or if you've got a phablet of this size, or if your phone or what, and they'll refer to particular product dimensions, for example. And it kind of like they'll write the guidance based on the products on the market at the time, and then of course you blink and new products have come out. So they're trying to rewrite their guidance in such a way that it's not linked to product types, it's more of a general guidance, so that if you develop a new type of product of a new dimensions or new form factor, you're not left without a procedure. Another exciting or interesting thing that happened at the workshop is the FCC's introduction of their cyber security requirements. Now, these will be a voluntary kind of labeling thing where a manufacturer will test their product for cyber security, get it certified by a certification body, and that will allow them to label their product as being kind of cyber secure, and it'll apply to IoT type devices. Now, the FCC haven't clarified yet exactly which types of device would be in scope. They haven't clarified what the tests will be, how to be a test lab, how to be a certification body, or any of those things. It's in early days. It will be a voluntary thing, and it will be slightly decoupled, so you'll be able to get your product certification even if you don't choose to go for this cybersecurity thing. Loosely linked to the topic of cybersecurity, the FCC over the last few years, you may have noticed, they're really looking closely at different manufacturers around the world, especially in the Far East, where the products are coming from and where they're being made. You may have heard me talk before about this covered list of types of equipment made by particular types of manufacturer. And so it's kind of a mixture of the manufacturer and the product type, ends up being like a covered list. Well, the FCC are now also looking at a kind of the companies they're dealing with, making sure that, for example, test labs or TCBs are not owned by some of those companies who make the products on their covered list. So, for example, if a manufacturer of that type of product is a part owner of a test lab, then that test lab may not be allowed to do FCC testing in the future. Whereas at the moment, a manufacturer can have an FCC accredited and listed lab. So all interesting stuff from the FCC. So a few more of their KDB updates. A good reminder that if you want to test and authorize a product, you need to follow the procedures, even if it's not going for certification. So there are some wireless power transfer type devices that don't require certification. They can be done by SDOC procedure, but the process for them isn't exactly clear, and so you'd still need to contact the FCC and ask them exactly how do I do this. Speaking of that, by the way, the FCC and ISED Canada both made a point that they often get asked by manufacturers, here's my product, what do I do? And the FCC and Canada were both saying, we are not free consultants. We can't charge you to answer this. We're a government body. It's not a business model for us. But the information is out there. You need to either go and figure it out or pay a company like Element or one of the other labs or consultants or TCBs, pay somebody to figure this out for you. But if the information already exists out there, don't contact the FCC and ISED Canada and ask them the question. So on to ISED Canada then, lots of good updates from them. Good updates on, not contacting them, but also if you do contact the FCC for a specific procedural issue, you'd have to also contact Canada. Canada won't just blindly accept the FCC's answer, you'd have to go and ask Canada as well. Another good reminder for Canada is, if you're selling for Canada, you've always got to be selling your product to the latest version of the standard. So if you get your product tested and certified, or you follow the SDOC procedure for Canada and you're selling your product, it's just like we have in the EU, where the product you sell must meet the latest version of the standard. So if you're selling for years, your product's certified, the standard may change. For the FCC, if a test standard changes, it doesn't affect your certification because your certification is to the FCC rules, which doesn't change. In Canada, your certification is to the Canadian standard, the RSS or the ICES. And if that changes, then you do need to update your certification or at least update your documentation. It doesn't always mean going through the certification body, but the manufacturer has to reassess their product. It might mean testing. And Canada reissued their RF exposure standard in December 2023 with a 1-year transition period until December 2024. So any manufacturer of radio equipment, you need to look at that and you need to make sure that you are compliant with the latest version. Get in touch with us if you need any help with that. And then finally, at the TCB Council Workshop, a couple of other things. NIST spoke about international MRAs, things like that. Always a good update from them. Some interesting things going on in Japan. Japan putting a lot more effort into translating their documents into English for the rest of us. I think they've been doing a lot of market surveillance activities and realizing that the non-Japanese speakers need a lot of help. They're trialing a concept of allowing FCC or European test methods for trialing it for 2.4 gigahertz, like wireless LAN at the moment. See how that works out. But other than that, you've got to remember that for Japan, it's a different type of testing. And then the 3-day event ended on the final day with a big cybersecurity panel session with speakers from around the world. It's really good stuff, and we'll do a separate video on cybersecurity. So yeah, reach out to us if you've got any questions, and thanks very much. Bye-bye.